They always say funerals are quiet, respectful, sacred places. Moments where even strangers lower their voices and step lightly. But that morning in Briarwood Cemetery, I learned how fast dignity can be ripped away when someone decides you don't belong. I was standing in the rain, staring at my son's casket, thinking about how life doesn't slow down just because yours has shattered, when I heard boots stomping toward us and a voice that didn't care where it was or who it hurt. Let me back up a little. My name is Naomi Carter, and on paper, I look like someone people assume is untouchable. I've spent decades in courtrooms climbing a ladder most folks said wasn't built for people like me. I've argued cases that changed laws, sat on panels that shaped policy, shaken hands with people whose names get carved into buildings. But that day, none of that mattered. That day, I wasn't a judge or a legal scholar or a woman with influence. I was just a black mother in a black dress trying to bury her only child. My son Daniel was 23. Smart kid, gentle, the kind of person who held doors open and remembered your birthday. He died in a hit-and-run 3 days after starting his first job out of college. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong driver. You know how people say, life isn't fair. That phrase feels small when you're picking out a coffin for your child. I wanted the funeral to be simple. No cameras, no announcements, no officials. Just family rain and the chance to say goodbye without the world watching. The rain had turned the ground into mud soaking through my shoes, but I didn't care. I was focused on the casket, the wood grain. The fact that my baby was in there and I couldn't do a thing about it. My sister was speaking softly, voice trembling when the sound of a siren cut through the air, sharp and unnecessary. I remember thinking, please don't stop here, please don't make this about you. But of course it did. A patrol car rolled straight onto the grass like it owned the place. Out stepped Officer Ryan Keller. Big guy, wide shoulders, jaw clenched like he was already angry. He didn't look at the flowers or the mourners. He looked at our cars, at our faces, like he was scanning for trouble. "All right, that's enough," he said loud, dismissive. "Service is over. Let's wrap it up." My brother stepped forward, hands open, trying to keep his voice calm. "Officer, we have a permit. We're in the middle of a funeral." Keller smirked, chewed his gum, and said something about noise complaints and suspicious vehicles. It was absurd. The nearest house was miles away and the music was barely audible. Everyone there knew it was nonsense, but he said it with the confidence of someone who's never been challenged. Then he looked at me. I was sitting beneath the canopy, head bowed, hands shaking. Maybe it was the way I didn't react fast enough. Maybe it was the way I didn't look scared. Whatever it was, it flipped a switch in him. "You," he barked. "Black SUV with out-of-state plates. That yours?" I looked up slowly and nodded. "Yes." One word. That's all it took. He started talking about investigations about drugs, about needing to ask me some questions. Right there, in front of my son's coffin. I stood up, heart-pounding rain soaking through my coat. I told him calmly that this was a funeral, that there had to be some mistake, that I could show ID. He laughed. A short, sharp laugh that felt like a slap. "Yeah, sure," he said. "I've heard that before." When I reached into my purse slowly, deliberately, he shouted, "Hands where I can see them." Before I could even explain, he grabbed my arm, twisted it behind my back, and shoved me against the side of the hearse. I remember the cold metal against my cheek, the smell of wet grass, the sound of my sister screaming my name. I told him he was hurting me. I told him he was making a mistake. I told him who I was. He didn't care. He tightened the cuffs and leaned in, close breath, hot and angry. "You don't look like anything special to me," he said. They dragged me away from my son's funeral. I wish I could say I was brave, that I said something powerful, but the truth is I was in shock. I stumbled, lost a shoe, felt the mud between my toes as they pushed me into the back of the car. Through the window, I saw Daniel's casket getting smaller, rain streaking down like tears. I didn't have the energy to cry. That was the moment something inside me broke, then hardened. Grief turned into something sharper. At the station, it got worse. They joked. They rolled their eyes when I asked for a phone call. One officer actually laughed and said, "She thinks she's important." They took my belongings, fingerprinted me, shoved me into a holding cell that smelled like bleach and regret. I stood there, heart racing, shoulder throbbing, and forced myself to breathe. I told myself, not now. You can fall apart later. Right now, you survive. I started cataloging everything like muscle memory kicking in. Time of arrest, names, badge numbers, violations. I could hear Keller outside bragging, telling another officer how he'd handled me. Then the phones started ringing. One, then another, then another. The mood shifted. I could feel it through the walls. A few minutes later, the cell door opened. A sergeant stood there, face pale, voice shaky, apologizing, saying there had been a misunderstanding. I told him I wasn't going anywhere until my attorney arrived, until federal agents documented what happened. He looked stunned, like no one had ever said no to him before. When the mayor walked in with 2 lawyers and a pair of federal investigators, the station erupted into chaos. I stepped out of the cell and walked straight past them, straight up to Officer Keller. He looked smaller somehow, like the confidence had drained out of him. I told him quietly that he'd just changed his life. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't threaten. I just told the truth. What followed wasn't quick or clean. I sued the city. They offered money early, hoping I'd go away. I refused. I wanted answers. During discovery, we uncovered years of complaints against Keller, all dismissed, all ignored. Text messages mocking people he arrested. Videos buried in mislabeled files. One of them showed him planting evidence during a traffic stop years earlier. The man he framed lost his scholarship, his future. I found him. I asked him to testify. He cried when he realized someone finally believed him. The trial was brutal. The city's lawyers tried to paint me as emotional, arrogant, difficult. They said it was a misunderstanding, a bad day. I took the stand and told the jury what he really stole. Not my pride, not my comfort, my last goodbye. The final memory of my son tainted forever by handcuffs and laughter. I asked them to make it matter. They did. The verdict came back in my favor. Millions in damages. Keller was fired, then indicted. Others fell with him. Policies changed. Oversight committees formed. Headlines came and went. People called me strong, inspirational, brave. But at night, when the house was quiet, I still missed my son. I didn't keep the money. It felt wrong sitting there tied to the worst day of my life. I put it into a foundation funding legal defense for people crushed by the system. We reopened cases, freed innocent people, made noise where silence had lived too long. Years later, I went back to Briarwood Cemetery alone. Same rain, softer this time. I talked to Daniel, told him what his name had become, what his story had changed. I told him I'd trade it all for 5 more minutes, and I meant it. As I left, a young officer stood by his car, removed his hat, and nodded. No words, just respect. It wasn't perfect. It didn't erase the past, but it meant something. So here's my question to you. When someone in power crosses a line, is money enough, or do we demand real change? Have you ever seen someone judged, dismissed, or punished because of who they were, not what they did? Tell me what you think in the comments. I want to hear your stories, your anger, your hope. And if this hit you anywhere close to the heart, share it. Because silence is the one thing injustice depends on.